Hello folks, back with another Whip Wednesday here. Got a collection of metal minis, a fistful of new acquisitions from Ralpartha, and then some from the collections that I've been buying up lately from Ralpartha, Grenadier, and I do believe custom cast minis. So first off, we've got three little rat guys here from Ralpartha's current releases. All three of these guys come with chariots that are not painted yet. Have a old 90s Ralpartha halfling, and I do believe this is an elf, maybe a child elf. The sculpt itself is pretty small, but it is clearly an elf and not just another halfling. The custom cast minis are these tiny little halflings here. So these guys are real old castings, 1979 I believe, from Custom Cast. They are a little rough, the sculpts are, but then again, they are tiny little minis. This was the beginning of the fantasy miniatures production for D&D and whatnot, so I can forgive them a little bit. Plus, they're nice little pieces of history. This Ralpartha halfling from the 90s is a fantastic little sculpt. There's a lot of detail in there that I didn't see until I started tossing some contrast paint on there. The eye patch is a nice little touch. I like the sling. I was just saying to one of my buddies the other day that with 5th edition D&D, there doesn't seem to be a lot of slingers. All of my halflings used to have slings back in 2nd edition, so don't know what's up with them, but maybe since I have the minis, they will show up more in my games. I do believe this is an elven child. Definitely a 90s Ralpartha D&D figure. And then a trio here of Ralpartha little Ratmen ready to do battle on their tiny little chariots. These guys also have a lot of character to them. I like the fact that most of them have this banded mail on them. I always like doing those up in bronze. And then, of course, there are these three ghosts that are old Grenadier sculpts. There's not a whole lot of detail on them to paint up, but then again, they are ghosts, basically just floating sheets. They do, it's a little hard to see, but they do have these little tiny bumps in the back of their cowls there that are intended to be painted up as glowing eyes. So that'll be a nice little feature. Instead of having to just make something up, it's definitely handy to have something in there that's intended to be painted. And then after that, I have about 4 or 5 dozen of these 3D printed sandbags to paint up. One of the guys at the club wants to run a bolt action scenario. British versus Germans at Cannes right after D-Day. So we're going to be painting up a bunch of rubble buildings, some scattered terrain, and then some sandbags make some fantastic little impromptu scattered terrain and fortified positions for the Germans to be hiding behind. So these are always a real quick job. I have a khaki spray paint from Rust-Oleum, part of their camouflage line, so it's a very matte, a very flat paint. Usually a quick ink wash, a couple of different dry brushes, and we call them done. They look decent on the table, especially from 3 feet. And frankly, it's the only way to do, 40 or 50 of these sandbags at once. So that's what's on the painting table this week. I'm also working on a recap of all the stuff I painted last week, including the 2 Reaper pumpkin-headed monsters and the Scarecrow. So look for that. Thank you for tuning in.